Hey Guy, and welcome to our history podcast for sleep. Tonight, we journey into the desert. We're not following a prophet or a hermit, but a soldier. We are going to explore the quiet, disciplined, and secret world of the most famous and mysterious military order in history. This is a story of warrior monks, of immense wealth, and of a sudden, brutal end. It is the story of the cloak, the cross, and the endless desert wind. But first, a small dose of reality. In the world we are about to enter, you probably would not have survived your first battle. Life as a crusader knight in the Holy Land was one of endemic disease, constant, brutal skirmishes, and the ever-present threat of being captured and sold into slavery. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like this episode or subscribe to the podcast, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And now, turn on your fan, dim the lights, and get comfortable. You are a second son. In the world of 12th century France, these are the four most important words that define your entire existence. You have grown up in your father's stone castle, a place of cold drafts and the constant smell of wood smoke. You have been trained since you were a boy in the art of war. You know how to wield a sword, how to charge on a heavy war horse, how to wear the immense weight of a chainmail hauberk. You are a knight, but you are a knight with no future. This is the mainstream historical fact that governs your life, the law of primogeniture. Your older brother, by right of birth, will inherit everything: the castle, the lands, the titles, the wealth. You will inherit a good horse, a good sword, and your father's blessing. You are a trained and dangerous young man with no land to rule, no estate to manage, and no purpose to serve. Your options are few, and they are not appealing. You could try to marry the daughter of a lesser lord, a woman with a small piece of land to her name. You could join the church and become a priest or a bishop, a path of power, but not one your warrior's heart desires. Or you could become a landless, wandering knight, a routier, selling your sword to the highest bidder in the endless petty wars between local barons. This is a life of violence, but it is one without honor. You live in a world saturated with this violence. The church, in a desperate attempt to curb the bloodshed, has instituted the peace and truce of God, a quirky set of rules that try to get men like you to stop fighting on Sundays and holy days. But it does little to solve the fundamental problem: a surplus of trained, armed, and deeply bored young noblemen with nothing to do. Then one day, you hear a new story. A priest, recently returned from a pilgrimage to the Holy Land, speaks not of the holy sites, but of a new kind of knighthood. A holy order of warriors, he says, who live like monks but fight like lions. They are the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon, the Knights Templar. He describes their life. They take vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. They live a life of prayer and strict discipline. But their sacred work is to patrol the dusty roads of the Holy Land, protecting Christian pilgrims from bandits and Saracen raiders. They are the sword arm of God, fighting not for land or for a petty lord's honor, but for the salvation of all Christendom. As you listen, a new possibility begins to dawn in your mind. This is a purpose. This is a way to use the only skills you have in the service of the highest possible ideal. But what is your true motivation? Historians still debate this. Are you, in this moment, overwhelmed with a pure and pious desire to defend the faith? Are you thrilled by the promise of exotic adventure and righteous battle in a faraway land? Or are you, a landless second son, simply seeing the best and most honorable career path available to you, a way to find a place in a world that has no place for you? You know, with the clear-eyed pragmatism of your class, that it is a mixture of all three. You make your decision. You go to your father and tell him you wish to join the Templars. He is relieved. Your future is settled. You will not be a drain on the family's resources or a source of trouble in the local feuds. You say goodbye to your brother, the future lord of the castle. You say goodbye to the green fields and cool forests of your home. You set out on the road, not for a nearby war, but for the local Templar preceptory, the command post of the order. You are trading your uncertain future of pointless violence for a certain future of disciplined, purposeful violence. You are trading the hope of a small piece of land for the promise of a simple white cloak. You are seeking your inheritance not in the green fields of France, but in the endless, unforgiving desert of the Holy Land. The first step on your long, quiet, and dangerous new road has been taken. You arrive at the local Templar preceptory, a fortified farm and chapter house that serves as the order's recruitment and administrative center for your region. It is not a grand castle, but a simple, functional, and disciplined place. After a few days of being observed, you are granted an audience with the commander. The initiation ceremony takes place at night in the preceptory's small, cold stone chapel. The only light comes from a few flickering oil lamps that cast long, dancing shadows on the walls. You stand before the commander, who is flanked by two other knights of the order, their faces grim and unreadable in the dim light. This is not a celebration. It is a solemn and serious interview. He begins to ask you a series of formal questions, his voice echoing in the small chapel. "Brother," he asks, "are you of noble birth and a free man? Are you in debt to any person? Have you made a promise of marriage to any woman?" He must ensure you are coming to the order free of any worldly entanglements. When you have answered, he explains the life you are choosing. He tells you that to be a Templar is to be two things at once, a monk and a knight, and to do this, you must take the three great monastic vows. This is the mainstream historical fact at the heart of the order. They are vows that go against every instinct and every value that your aristocratic warrior class holds dear. First, you must take a vow of poverty. You will surrender all of your personal property to the order. Your fine war horse, your steel sword, your noble clothes, they are no longer yours. You will own nothing, not even the cloak on your back. Everything will be the property of the community, to be used for the service of God. Second, you must take a vow of chastity. You must renounce all women and the hope of marriage, of a family, of heirs to carry on your name. The central obsession of your class, the continuation of a bloodline, you must now abandon forever. Your new family will be the Brotherhood of the Temple. Third, and perhaps most difficult for a proud and willful knight, you must take a vow of obedience. You must surrender your own will entirely to the will of the master of the order and to the commanders he places above you. You will go where you are told to go, you will fight when you are told to fight, and you will die if you are told to die, all without question. Then comes the final, quirky, and uniquely Templar addition to the vows. The commander explains that you must also swear never to surrender in battle. You must never offer or accept a ransom. You must promise to fight until victory or death, unless the odds against you are more than 3-1. It is a vow of almost suicidal bravery, a promise that removes all possibility of personal profit or self-preservation from the act of war. You look at the stern, weathered faces of the knights before you. They have all taken these vows, and you are at the heart of a question historians still debate. Who were these men, really? Were they all second sons like you, men with few other options, for whom the order was a pragmatic and honorable career choice? Or were some of them great lords who had willingly given up vast lands and titles to join this strange brotherhood of warrior monks? The commander asks if you accept these terms, if you are willing to forsake the world and become a perpetual servant and slave of the order. You look at the cross on the altar, and you think of the aimless, empty life of a landless knight that awaits you otherwise. You know this is your path. "I do," you say, your voice steady. You kneel on the cold stone floor. You place your hands between the hands of the commander, just as a vassal would when swearing fealty to his new lord. But you are not swearing allegiance to a man. You are swearing allegiance to God. You recite the words of the vows, renouncing your old life, your name, your property, and your will. When you stand up, you are no longer the son of your father. You are a brother of the Order of the Temple. You have died to the world and been reborn into a new, disciplined, and purposeful life. You are led to a small, bare cell with a simple straw mattress on the floor. You have no possessions now but the simple tunic you are wearing. You have traded your chaotic freedom for a life of absolute obedience, and as you lie down in the profound silence of the monastic cell, you feel a sense of peace and rightness you have never known before. The restless night is gone. The warrior monk has been born. You awaken on the thin straw mattress in your new, bare cell. The morning is cold and gray. For a moment, you are disoriented, forgetting where you are. Then the memory of the night before, of the vows you took in the lamplit chapel, rushes back. You are no longer your own man. You are a brother of the temple. An older knight, a man whose face is a map of scars from some long-forgotten battle in the east, comes to your cell. He does not speak. He simply gestures for you to follow him. You walk behind him, your footsteps echoing in the quiet of the morning, back to the small stone chapel where your old life ended. Laid out upon the simple stone altar is a long, heavy woolen cloak. It is stark white. On the left breast, a simple, equilateral cross of blood-red cloth has been sewn. This is your new skin, your identity. The commander of the preceptory is waiting for you. He picks up the heavy mantle. This is the mainstream historical fact that defines your new appearance. This white mantle, the commander says, his voice low and serious, is a symbol of the pure and chaste life you have now embraced. You have cast off the dark and worldly clothes of a sinful life, and you now put on this white garment, a sign to all the world of your newfound innocence. Then he touches the red cross sewn over the heart. This cross, he continues, is a symbol of the martyrdom you must be willing to endure in the service of our Lord. Just as he shed his blood for you, you must be willing to shed your blood for him, in the defense of the Holy Land and its pilgrims. You are no longer just a knight who fights for a lord. You are now a walking cross, a living symbol of sacrifice. The commander then explains the quirky and strict rules that come with this garment. You are to wear it at all times. When you eat, when you pray, when you ride your horse, and even when you sleep. It is a constant physical reminder of your vows. If it becomes torn, you must repair it. If it is lost, it is a source of immense shame. To have it stripped from you by the order is the ultimate punishment, a sign that you have been cast out, back into the world of darkness. It is not just a piece of clothing, it is your honor made visible. He and the old knight then step forward. They lift the heavy cloak and place it over your shoulders. The weight of it surprises you. It is a substantial, heavy garment made of thick, undyed wool. It is not the soft, luxurious cloak of a nobleman. It is the rough, practical, and slightly itchy garment of a monk. You feel its weight settle upon you, a constant physical pressure, a reminder of the new, heavy responsibilities you have just accepted. You stand there in the cool chapel, already feeling the warmth of the heavy wool, and you wonder, in a practical way, about this uniform. Historians of material culture still debate the practicalities of a garment like this. How will this heavy, white, woolen cloak feel in the blazing, relentless sun of the desert? You realize, with a dawning clarity, that it is not a piece of clothing designed for comfort. It is designed to be a test, a small, constant trial of your endurance and your devotion. After the short, solemn ceremony, you are led out into the courtyard. You pass by a large pail of water, and you catch your own reflection. The familiar face of the young, restless nobleman you have known your whole life is still there, but he is now framed by a stark, anonymous simplicity. The color and flair of your old life are gone, replaced by the uncompromising black and white and red of the order. Your individual identity has been subsumed into the great, collective identity of the Templars. You have now been fully stripped of your past. Your lands, your title, your wealth, your very will, you gave them up last night. And now you have given up your clothes. You have taken the vows and you are wearing the uniform. You are, in form and in spirit, a Knight Templar. You are ready for the next great step of your journey. The long and perilous voyage to the Holy Land. You have been given your new identity, the white mantle of the Templar. Now, you must journey to the place where your new life will truly begin. Along with a small group of other new recruits, all young men like you travel south through France. You walk for weeks, staying at other Templar preceptories along the way, until you finally arrive at the great port city of Marseille. The sight, sound, and smell of the sea, a thing you have only ever heard stories about, now fills your senses. The ship that will take you to the Holy Land is not a sleek and elegant vessel. It is a broad, heavy, and functional transport ship, chartered by the order from Genoese merchants. This is the mainstream historical fact of your journey. The great maritime republics of Italy controlled the sea lanes, and the military orders relied on their ships to move men and supplies to the east. The deck is already a chaotic scene of sailors shouting in a language you don't understand, and merchants overseeing the loading of cargo. But the most important cargo is not the barrels of wine or the crates of supplies. It is the horses. This is a quirky and vital detail of your new life. The Templars are a cavalry force, and your great war horses are the priceless engines of your power. You watch as your own horse, the one you brought with you from your family's estate, but which now belongs to the order, is carefully loaded. It is placed in a wide leather sling, and then with a system of ropes and pulleys, it is hoisted into the air, its legs kicking in confusion, and then slowly lowered into the dark, swaying, claustrophobic confines of the ship's hold. You say a silent prayer that it will survive the long journey. Finally, all is ready. The great single sail is unfurled, it catches the wind, and the ship begins to move. You stand on the crowded deck and watch as the green, familiar coastline of Europe, the only world you have ever known, shrinks behind you until it is just a faint, hazy line, and then it is gone. At first, the journey is a novelty, an adventure, but soon it settles into a state of profound and deep boredom. The days become indistinguishable from one another. There is only the endless, empty blue of the sea and the sky. The only sounds are the constant creaking of the ship's timbers, the snap of the sail in the wind, and the quiet murmur of prayers from your fellow brothers. Your life is governed by a simple, monotonous routine. You wake, you pray, you are given your meager daily ration of hard, dry biscuit and a measure of water. You try to find a space on the crowded deck to sit, and you wait. The exact conditions and daily routines on a Crusader-era transport ship are a subject that naval historians still debate, piecing the story together from scant records. But for you, the reality is simple and unpleasant. The ship is hideously crowded, the food is monotonous, and the constant, gentle rocking of the sea soon turns into a churning misery in your stomach. You spend the first week in a state of perpetual seasickness, a green-faced, wretched warrior monk. Then about 3 weeks into your journey, a storm hits. The blue sky turns to a dark, angry gray. The gentle rocking becomes a violent, terrifying pitching and rolling. Great waves of green water crash over the deck, and you huddle with your brothers, your white mantles soaked through, and you pray as you have never prayed before. The wind howls in the rigging, a sound like a screaming demon. It is a stark reminder of your own powerlessness in the face of God's creation. The storm passes, but it leaves behind sickness. In the crowded, unsanitary conditions below deck, a fever begins to spread. You see 2 of the new recruits from your own group, young men you had shared bread with just a few days before, succumb to the illness. You watch, your heart heavy, as their bodies, wrapped in their white mantles, are given a final blessing and then slipped over the side of the ship into the deep water. After what feels like an eternity, one morning you are awoken by a shout from the lookout in the crow's nest. Land. You struggle to your feet, your body weak, and you look to the east. At first you see nothing, but then you see it. A pale, low, brown line on the horizon, the coast of the Holy Land. The long, perilous, and deeply boring voyage is almost over. You have survived the storms and the sickness. You are about to step into the endless desert, the new world you have sacrificed everything to serve. The pale brown line on the horizon slowly resolves itself into a city. As your ship draws closer, you see it clearly. A great fortified port, its stone walls rising directly from the blue water, a forest of church bell towers, castle keeps, and slender minarets piercing the sky. This is Acre, the capital of the Crusader Kingdom of Jerusalem, the main gateway for all pilgrims and soldiers from the West. You have arrived in the Holy Land. Your ship navigates the busy harbor and docks at the bustling quay. You and your fellow brothers, weak and unsteady from weeks at sea, make your way down the gangplank and onto solid ground for the first time. And the moment your feet touch the stone, a new world rushes in to overwhelm your senses. The first thing that hits you is the heat. It is not the gentle, humid warmth of a French summer. It is a dry, baking, and utterly oppressive heat, a physical weight that seems to draw the moisture from your body. The light is different too, a brilliant white glare that reflects off the pale stone of the buildings and makes you squint. Then come the smells. The clean, simple scent of the sea is replaced by a thick, complex perfume. You smell exotic spices you cannot name, the sweet aroma of dates and figs piled high in market stalls, the unfamiliar scent of camels, the salty tang of drying fish, and the ever-present smell of dust and humanity. You are led from the port and into the city itself, and the sounds are a bewildering chorus. You hear the familiar sounds of French, spoken by other knights and nobles. But it is mixed with the rapid, musical Italian of the Genoese merchants, the guttural sounds of Arabic from the local dockworkers, and the chanting of Greek Orthodox priests from a nearby church. You walk through the streets of Acre, and you realize that this city is a strange and complicated place. This is a Crusader city, a Christian capital, but it is populated by a dizzying mix of peoples. You see tall, fair-haired Frankish knights like yourself. You see swarthy Italian sailors. You see local Syrian Christians, their features and dress subtly different from your own. You see robed Muslim traders and black-hatted Jewish scholars. And historians still debate the true nature of this coexistence. Was a city like Acre a vibrant, tolerant melting pot, a place of pragmatic trade and cultural exchange? Or was it a deeply segregated and tense city, a collection of communities living side by side in a state of constant, simmering suspicion? As you walk through the crowded streets, you sense that it is somehow both at once. Your guide leads you through the chaos to your destination, the Templar Quarter. It is a city within the city, a massive, fortified compound by the sea that serves as the Order's main headquarters. As you pass through its gates, the noise and chaos of the city fall away, replaced by the familiar, disciplined quiet of a monastic rule. Here there is order. That evening, at your first meal on dry land, you taste the bounty of this new world. After weeks of nothing but hard biscuit, you are given soft, fresh bread and a stew flavored with cumin and other new spices. And for the first time in your life, you eat a fresh fig. This is a quirky and wonderful revelation. The fruit is soft, and it bursts in your mouth with a sweet, syrupy flavor that is a world away from the sour apples of your home. After the meal, you climb to the top of the fortress wall to look out over this new land. To the west is the familiar, comforting blue of the Mediterranean Sea, but to the east, your view is different. Beyond the green coastal plain, the landscape shimmers and wavers in the evening heat. The hills are brown and barren. It is the edge of the endless desert, the vast, unforgiving, and sacred landscape that will be the primary stage for the rest of your life. You have arrived. You have survived the long, perilous journey across the sea. You are finally here. But you are beginning to understand that the Holy Land is not the simple, pious place you imagined in your cold stone chapel back in France. It is a complex, hot, dangerous, and intoxicatingly strange new world. You stand on the battlements, the cool sea breeze at your back, and the hot, dry breath of the desert before you. You are on the very edge of Christendom, a stranger in a sacred land. You have arrived in the Holy Land. The chaotic, vibrant, and exotic world of Acre is just outside your fortress walls. But inside the Templar compound, you discover a world of profound, monastic silence and an iron, unbending routine. The adventure is over. Your training and your new life are about to begin. You are no longer a traveler. You are a monk with a sword, and you must learn to live like one. Your first days are spent not in the training yard, but in a small, quiet room, being instructed by an old, severe knight who is the master of novices. He teaches you the rule. This is the mainstream historical fact that will govern every moment of your waking and sleeping life. The Latin rule of the Templar order is a detailed set of hundreds of regulations based on the Cistercian monastic model, and your absolute, unquestioning obedience to it is not optional. You learn the rhythm of your new life, and it is a rhythm of prayer. You are woken long before dawn by the sound of a bell, calling you to the first service of the day, matins, in the cold, dark chapel. You will return to the chapel throughout the day, at the appointed canonical hours. Lauds at sunrise, prime, terce, sext, and none throughout the day, vespers in the evening, and finally, compline, the last prayer of the night before you go to sleep. You begin to understand that you are a monk first and a knight second. Your meals are also governed by this new, strict discipline. You file into the great refectory, a long, quiet hall. You do not speak. You sit on a simple wooden bench, and you eat your meal in absolute silence. The food is simple and nourishing, but without the rich sauces and spices of your old life. You will eat meat only 3 times a week. The only sound in the room is the clatter of spoons and the calm, steady voice of one of your brothers, who stands at a lectern and reads from the Holy Scriptures throughout the entire meal. And you learn the other, quirky and specific rules designed to strip you of your old, aristocratic pride. You must eat in pairs, you are told, sharing a single bowl and cup with the brother sitting next to you. This is to foster a spirit of community and to allow you to watch over your brother, to ensure he is eating enough and not engaging in excessive, prideful fasting. You learn that after the service of Compline at night, a great silence descends upon the entire compound. You are not permitted to speak a single word to anyone until the service of prime the next morning. You learn that you are forbidden from having a lock on your personal satchel. You have taken a vow of poverty. You own nothing, therefore you have nothing to hide and nothing to protect. You learn that your iconic white mantle is to be worn at all times, a constant, physical reminder of your vows. It is not just a uniform. It is a sacred habit, and you wonder, as you try to adapt to this rigid, unforgiving routine, how this monastic life will function out on campaign, on a long desert patrol, or in the chaos of a siege. Historians still debate how strictly these rules were, or even could be, enforced in the harsh, pragmatic reality of the Crusader states. Was this pious, monastic ideal maintained at all times, or was it often compromised by the brutal necessities of survival and war? For now, inside the fortress walls, the rule is absolute. The restless, proud, and independent young nobleman who arrived in this land just a few days ago is being systematically and deliberately erased. His individual will is being broken down, replaced by a new identity, one of disciplined, humble, and unquestioning obedience. You are being forged through prayer, silence, and 1,000 small, humbling rules into something new. You are becoming a perfect instrument, a living weapon in the service of God. You sit in the silent refectory, eating your simple meal of bread and lentils from a shared bowl, listening to the voice of the reader echo in the hall. The world of personal choice has been left behind. You have entered a world of profound, communal, and absolute order. You have been initiated into the monastic half of your new life, the endless cycle of prayer, the meals eaten in silence, the strict and humbling rules. Now, you must be forged into the other half of your identity. After the morning service of Prime, the Master of Novices leads you not to the chapel, but to the great, dusty training yard that lies within the fortress walls. It is time to learn how to be a Templar Knight. You are already a skilled warrior. You have been training with a sword and a lance since you were a boy. But the grizzled, one-eyed knight who serves as your instructor quickly informs you that everything you learned about fighting in France is mostly wrong. You were trained for the tournament, for the glorious individual joust, for a chivalrous duel where the goal is honor and ransom. That, he tells you, is a game. War in the Holy Land is not a game. It is a brutal, hot, and desperate business of survival. Here, individual glory is a sin. Unity and discipline are the only things that will keep you alive. Your new training is a process of unlearning. You spend endless hours under the blazing desert sun, not in your heavy chainmail, but in a simple padded tunic, practicing not your individual skill, but your ability to work as part of a single, cohesive unit. You learn to ride your horse in a tight formation, knee to knee with your brothers, turning and maneuvering as one. The centerpiece of your training, the single great military tactic that has made the Templars so feared, is the disciplined heavy cavalry charge. This is the mainstream historical fact of your new profession. You practice it over and over again. You and a dozen other knights line up in a tight, wedge-like formation. You hold a heavy lance, its point aimed not at a single opponent, but at the empty space in front of you. You learn to listen for the commands. You learn to control your warhorse, to keep it from bolting ahead of the line. You learn that your own life is less important than the integrity of the formation. You are not a single knight. You are the iron tip of a single, great spear being thrust into the heart of the enemy. Your only guide in the chaos of the charge is the banner. This is a quirky and absolutely crucial detail of your training. Your instructor points to the order's iconic standard, a simple black and white banner known as the bossant. "This is your commander in the field," he says, his voice a low growl. "You do not charge until it moves forward. You do not break formation as long as it is flying. If you are separated, you fight your way back to it. If it falls, you form a circle around it, and you defend it with your life. You do not leave the banner leaves you. It is a symbol of your vow of obedience, made manifest on the battlefield. Your days are a monotonous cycle of these repetitive drills, and the exact nature of your training is a subject that military historians still debate. As the order's specific training manuals have not survived, the details must be pieced together from the rule and from the chronicles of battles. But you experience it as a relentless, exhausting process. It is a process designed to grind away your noble arrogance, to break your instinct for individual heroism, and to reforge you as a selfless, interchangeable component in a great military machine. You begin to understand that the discipline of the training yard and the discipline of the monastery are the same thing. The vow of obedience you took in the chapel is what allows the charge to work. The humility you learn in the silent refectory is what allows you to trust your brother on your left and your right. The goal of it all is to erase your ego, so that you can become a perfect, unquestioning instrument of God's will. At the end of another long, hot, and exhausting day, you lead your horse back to the stables. You groom its coat in the quiet of the evening, the monotonous work a kind of moving meditation. You are no longer just a monk who prays. And you are no longer the flashy, individualistic knight you were trained to be in France. You are becoming something new, something different, something far more dangerous. You are becoming a holy warrior, a professional soldier of Christ, a disciplined and silent part of a brotherhood of steel. The long, grueling weeks of your initial training are over. You have been forged in the twin fires of the chapel and the training yard, your body and soul reshaped by the discipline of the rule. You are no longer a recruit. You are a Knight Templar. One morning, the commander summons you and gives you your first active duty. You expect, perhaps, to be sent to a great castle on the frontier, to join an army preparing for battle. Instead, your assignment is far more humble. You and 3 other brothers are to lead a patrol on the main road between the port city of Jaffa and Jerusalem. This is the mainstream historical fact that was the very reason for your order's creation. Your primary founding purpose is not to conquer, but to protect. You are to be a guardian for the thousands of Christian pilgrims who walk this dangerous and bandit-infested road. Your small troop assembles in the pre-dawn darkness. It consists of you and your 3 brother knights, all mounted on your heavy war horses, your white mantles bright and clean in the gloom. But you are also accompanied by a quirky and essential addition to any Templar force. A half-dozen lightly armed horsemen known as Turcopoles. These are locally recruited soldiers, often of mixed European and Syrian heritage, who know the land, speak the local languages, and serve as your scouts and skirmishers. You ride out of the fortress at Acre and turn south. Your mission is to patrol a designated stretch of the road for 2 weeks, watching for any sign of trouble and escorting any pilgrim groups you encounter. And so your life of adventure begins, not with the clash of swords, but with the profound, mind-numbing boredom of the long patrol. The days are identical. You rise before the sun, you say your prayers, and you begin to ride. The sun climbs in the sky, becoming a white, merciless hammer. The heat is immense. The dust kicked up by your horse's coats everything, turning your pure white mantle a dusty shade of gray. You ride at a slow, plodding, watchful pace. You scan the rocky hills on either side of the road for any sign of an ambush, but you see nothing. Only the shimmering heat haze, the dry, thorny scrub, and the endless, empty sky. This is the boring reality of your job. It is not the glorious charge you practiced in the training yard. It is an endless exercise in patience and vigilance. Hours and hours of quiet, watchful riding. When you encounter a group of pilgrims on foot, you see the effect of your presence. You see the fear and weariness on their faces give way to a wave of immense relief at the sight of your white cloaks and red crosses. You and your brothers position yourselves around their group, a silent, disciplined escort of armored guardians. They offer you their thanks, their blessings, but you do not engage in conversation. You are not here to be friendly. You are here to be a deterrent. Even here on the road, the rule is maintained. In the evening, you find a defensible spot to make camp. While the Turcopoles set a perimeter, you and your brother knights dismount and say the evening service of Vespers. Your meal is the same simple fare you would eat in the refectory. Hard biscuit, dried fruit, a little cheese, and you eat it in silence. The monastic discipline is not something you leave behind in the fortress. It is a portable reality, a set of rules that gives your life structure and purpose, even in the wilderness. You successfully escort the group to the next fortified watchtower, and you see them safely on their way. Your patrol was a success because nothing happened, and this leads you to a question that historians still debate. What was the true effectiveness of these patrols? Did your presence truly make the roads safe? Or was the danger of banditry so endemic that you were simply a visible symbol of protection, a force that could perhaps intervene or rescue, but could not eliminate the fundamental dangers of the road? After 2 weeks of heat, dust, and monotony, your tour of duty is over and you ride back to your fortress. You have not fought a single battle. You have not won any glory. You have not gained any plunder. You have simply done your job. You have completed a mission of pure, boring, and successful prevention. And you have learned that the true and most important work of a Knight Templar is not always found in the thrill of the charge, but in the quiet, dusty, thankless, and endless routine of the long, watchful patrol. After many months of the dusty, monotonous, but relatively safe work of the pilgrim patrol, you have proven your discipline and your endurance. You are now considered a reliable brother of the order, and you are given a new, more permanent assignment. You are not being sent to the great headquarters in Jerusalem or the bustling port of Acre. You are being sent to the frontier. You and a small contingent of other knights are assigned to help garrison a remote castle, a small stone fortress deep in the desert, guarding a strategic pass. The journey to your new home takes several days. You ride east, away from the green, relatively fertile coastal plain, and deep into the arid, rocky wilderness. The landscape becomes more and more barren, a sea of brown and gray rock and sand under a vast, empty sky. You feel a sense of profound and growing isolation, as if you are riding towards the very edge of the world, and then you see it. It does not rise from the landscape so much as it grows out of it, a man-made mountain of stone on top of a rocky hill. This is your new home. It is not a beautiful, chivalrous castle like the ones in France, with their elegant towers and green gardens. It is a brutal, functional, and starkly beautiful machine for war. This is the mainstream historical fact of the Crusader states. Their survival depended upon a network of these incredible fortresses, lonely anchors of Christian power in a vast and hostile land. Your life inside the castle walls quickly settles into a routine that is even more rigid and monotonous than the one you knew in Acre. The days become identical, marked not by events, but by the slow passage of the sun across the sky and the ringing of the bell for the canonical hours. You wake in the cold darkness for matins. You train in the dusty courtyard during the morning. You take your turn standing guard on the high battlements, your eyes scanning the empty horizon for any sign of movement. You pray. You eat your silent, simple meal. You sleep. And the next day you do it all again. Your main companions in this new life are the elements. There is the sun, a relentless, punishing presence that beats down on the stone of the castle, turning the courtyard into an oven by midday. And there is the wind. The desert wind is a constant, lonely voice. It sighs and whistles through the arrow slits in the walls. It whips your white mantle around you as you stand on the watchtower. It is a sound of pure, desolate emptiness. You learn the most important lesson of life in the desert, the sacredness of water. The quirky and vital secret to the castle's survival lies deep within its stone heart. The commander takes you down into the massive, echoing cisterns, carved deep into the rock beneath the fortress. Here, the precious rainwater from the winter storms is collected and stored. This water is the lifeblood of the entire garrison. It is rationed out with extreme care. Every drop is a treasure. You learn that a fortress in the desert is not conquered by armies. It is conquered by thirst. You stand your watch on the high battlements, looking out over the endless, shimmering expanse of the desert. And in the long, silent hours, you contemplate the purpose of this great stone ship in its sea of sand. And you find yourself in the middle of a question that military historians still debate. What was the true function of these great Crusader castles? Were they offensive bases, staging points for launching raids and attacks deep into enemy territory? Or were they fundamentally defensive structures, great shields designed to control roads, protect farmland, and provide a secure refuge for the Christian settlers in the region? Standing here in this lonely, watchful outpost, it feels very much like the latter. You are not a sword, you are a shield. Months and then years begin to blur together. The restless young man who left France seeking adventure is gone. You are a veteran of the desert now. Your face is burned dark by the sun, and your eyes are narrowed from constantly scanning the bright horizon. You have become as silent and as patient as the stone of the castle itself. You have found your true calling, and it is not in the glorious, chaotic heat of the charge. It is here, in the profound, lonely, and deeply boring duty of the long, silent watch on a faraway, sun-baked wall. After several years of the silent, watchful, and deeply monotonous life in the desert fortress, you are recalled to the bustling Templar headquarters in Acre. You assume you are being reassigned to a new patrol, or perhaps joining a larger field army. Instead, you are given a new and completely unexpected duty. You are ordered to work in the commandery's treasury. You, a warrior trained for the brutal realities of the battlefield, are now led into a quiet, vaulted stone room. It is not a barracks or a training yard. It is an office. The room is filled with chests, writing desks, and great, heavy, leather-bound ledger books. The air smells of ink, old parchment, and the faint, metallic scent of coin. An old, scholarly knight, a man whose fighting days are long behind him, is the treasurer, and you are to be his assistant. Here, in this quiet, ordered room, you are initiated into the other great secret of your order. You have learned that the Templars are a holy army of monks. You are now about to learn that they are also the most sophisticated and trusted international bankers in the entire world. This is the mainstream historical fact that explains the order's immense power and wealth. The treasurer explains the system to you. The roads of Europe and the sea lanes of the Mediterranean are plagued by pirates and bandits. A nobleman or a wealthy pilgrim who wishes to travel to the Holy Land risks losing everything if he carries his gold with him. So the order provides a solution. The nobleman can walk into the Templar preceptory in London or Paris and deposit his fortune. In return, he is given not a heavy bag of coins, but a simple piece of parchment, a letter of credit. He then travels to the Holy Land, and upon his arrival in Acre, he can present that letter to you in this very room. After verifying it, you will give him the equivalent sum in local currency from your treasury. It is a system that is safe, efficient, and has made the order indispensable to the rulers and nobility of Christendom. But how, you ask, do you know the letter is genuine? And how do you prevent a bandit from stealing the letter and claiming the money for himself? The old knight shows you a quirky and brilliant piece of Templar ingenuity. He unrolls one of the letters. The text on it is not written in plain French or Latin. It is a complex and bewildering jumble of symbols, numbers, and seemingly random letters. It is a secret, unbreakable cipher, a code known only to the high-ranking treasurers of the order. The letter contains not just the sum, but details of the man's appearance and other secret identifiers. Without the key to the cipher, the letter is worthless. You spend your days learning this new, quiet craft. Your job is monotonous. You count coins. You check the authenticity of the wax seals on documents. You learn the basics of the cipher. You make careful, precise entries in the great ledgers, your hand, which is so used to the weight of a sword, now learning the delicate art of the quill once more. And as you work, you begin to see the true, staggering scale of the Templar enterprise. You see records of vast farms and vineyards in France that are owned and managed by the order. You see records of the order's own fleet of ships, transporting goods and pilgrims. You see records of huge loans made to desperate kings and even to the Pope himself. And you are at the center of a question that economists and historians still debate. Were the Templars just a military order that happened to be good with money? Or were you, in fact, the world's first multinational corporation, a vast, integrated network of logistics, agriculture, and high finance, an enterprise that just happened to be run by monks with swords? You realize that the true power of the Templars comes not just from the disciplined charge of your heavy cavalry, but from the disciplined and trusted efficiency of this room. The trust that allows a king to bank with you is a weapon as powerful as any lance. You have been shown the secret engine that funds the endless desert war. You have learned that your order fights its holy war with two instruments: the sword and the ledger. You spend your days in the quiet of the treasury, a silent monk once more, but this time you are guarding a treasure of gold and secrets, the worldly fuel for your spiritual battle. Your time in the quiet, orderly world of the treasury comes to an end. A call has come from the master of the order in Jerusalem. A great Saracen army is on the move, threatening a key fortress, and all available Templar forces are being mustered to meet them in the field. After years of the quiet routines of prayer, patrols, and bookkeeping, you are finally going to war. You and your brothers ride out from Acre, a long column of white-mantled knights, the iron tip of the great Crusader army that marches with you. The journey into the desert is a brutal ordeal in itself. You are encased in your heavy chainmail armor, a furnace under the relentless sun. The thirst is a constant, nagging presence in the back of your throat. And the dust kicked up by thousands of marching feet and horses is a thick, choking cloud that coats everything, turning your white mantle a familiar shade of dirty gray. The night before the battle, the camp is strangely quiet. There is no boasting or loud talk. You and your brother knights gather for the evening service of Compline, your voices a low, solemn murmur. Then you line up to confess your sins to the order's chaplain, preparing your soul to meet your Maker, as you know that many of you will not see the next sunset. You wake long before dawn. You arm yourself in a slow, methodical ritual. The padded gambeson, the heavy mail hauberk and coif, the plate armor on your knees and elbows, and finally, the great, enclosed helmet that turns the world into a narrow slit of vision. You are a walking fortress of iron. As the sun rises, you see the enemy army for the first time. It is a vast, shimmering sea of men and horses spread across the plain before you. You hear the sound of their drums and horns, a low, ominous sound that feels like the growl of a great beast. You and your brothers form up for the charge, knee to knee, a solid wall of iron and horseflesh. This is the moment your entire life has been leading up to. But this tactic, the disciplined heavy cavalry charge, is a subject that military historians still debate. Was it a brilliant, unstoppable shock tactic, the ultimate weapon of the Crusader states, or was it a reckless, all-or-nothing gamble that, against a more mobile and numerous enemy, often led to catastrophic disaster? The order is given. The great black and white banner, the bossant, moves forward. You lower your heavy lance, spur your horse, and the world explodes into a thundering roar of hooves. You are no longer an individual. You are part of a single, massive, iron-tipped spear, aimed at the heart of the enemy. This is the mainstream historical fact of medieval battle, but the reality of it is nothing like the glorious songs the troubadours sing. The moment your formation hits the enemy line, order dissolves into a terrifying, chaotic, and deeply personal scrum. Your lance shatters on an enemy's shield, and you draw your sword. The world shrinks to the space just in front of your horse. It is a sensory nightmare. The noise is a deafening chaos of screaming men, dying horses, and the brutal, percussive clang of steel on steel. The dust you kicked up on the charge becomes an impenetrable, choking fog, and you can barely distinguish friend from foe. Your primary sensation is not one of glorious purpose, but of a desperate, animal thirst, a burning need for a single drop of water. This is the quirky, brutal reality of desert warfare. The battle is fought not just against the enemy, but against the dust and the heat. You fight. You swing your sword until your arm is numb. You see men you have prayed with and eaten with cut down. You see the black and white banner, your only anchor in the chaos, still flying, and you fight your way towards it. The battle lasts for hours that feel like an eternity. Finally, the enemy begins to withdraw. There is no clean victory, just a bloody, brutal, and exhausting stalemate. You have survived. You sit on your exhausted horse, your body screaming with pain, your throat caked with dust, and you look out over the field. The glorious vision of holy war has been replaced by the grim reality of a butcher's yard. That night, you sit by a small campfire, trying to clean the blood and grime from your sword. You are emotionally numb. The heroic stories of your youth now seem like obscene lies. You have learned the true business of a warrior monk. It is not glory. It is the grim, terrifying, and deeply boring work of killing and trying not to be killed, of enduring thirst and fear, and of watching your brothers die in the dust. The years in the Holy Land have taken their toll. You have survived battles, patrols, and the slow, grinding weariness of the desert. You are a veteran knight now, your face weathered, your body scarred. Your hair is more gray than brown. You have been recalled from the east and are now serving as an officer in a large Templar preceptory back in your native France. Life is quieter here. It is a life of administration, of managing the order's vast farms and estates, and of training the young recruits who still dream of the glorious war you have actually seen. The Crusader states are shrinking. The great age of holy war seems to be drawing to a close, and a new, quiet, and unsettling question begins to hang in the air. What is the purpose of a great army of warrior monks when there is no longer a great holy war to fight? And then you begin to hear the whispers. They are brought by merchants and travelers from Paris, quiet and disturbing rumors that you at first dismiss as nonsense. They say that the King of France, Philip IV, is speaking in his private court against the order. They say he is listening to stories told by disgruntled former Templars, men who were cast out for indiscipline or theft. The rumors grow more specific and more insane. This is the mainstream historical fact that signals the beginning of your end. The whispers become a list of vile and unbelievable accusations. It is said that during your secret initiation ceremonies, you and your brothers are forced to deny Christ and to spit upon the crucifix. It is said that you worship a strange, cat-like idol, a bearded and severed head known as Baphomet, a quirky and terrifying detail designed to capture the public's imagination. It is said that the leaders of your order are sorcerers, and that the brothers engage in profane and blasphemous rituals. You and your fellow knights, when you hear these things, feel a mixture of pure, baffled rage and weary contempt. You who have spent your entire adult life fighting and bleeding under the sign of the cross. You who took a vow to die rather than renounce your faith. The accusations are a perfect, diabolical inversion of everything you stand for. They are not just lies, they are an attack on the very soul of your existence. You try to understand the source of this poison. You know the realities of the world. You know that your order is now more of a bank than an army. You know that you are immensely, fabulously wealthy. And you know that the King of France, Philip the Fair, is ambitious, ruthless, and desperately in debt to anyone who would lend him money, including your own order. And here you stand, at the center of a great historical mystery that historians still debate. What were King Philip's true motivations? Was he a genuinely pious, if fanatical, king who heard these rumors and believed them, and felt it was his sacred duty to purify Christendom of a heretical cancer in its midst? Or was he a cold, cynical, and pragmatic monarch who saw a perfect opportunity? Did he invent these charges as a brilliant and ruthless pretext to cancel his debts, destroy a powerful and independent military force within his own kingdom, and seize its unimaginable wealth for himself? You and your brothers in your quiet French preceptory suspect the latter. You feel a new and unfamiliar kind of fear. It is not the clean, sharp fear of facing a Saracen charge in the desert. It is the dirty, creeping, political fear of being betrayed, of being destroyed not by an honest enemy's sword, but by a powerful friend's lie. You are warriors, not diplomats. You do not know how to fight a war of whispers and slander. Your only real comfort is your faith in the Pope. Your order was created by a Pope, and you are responsible only to him. You are a sovereign power, immune to the laws of any king. You trust that the Holy Father in Rome will see these accusations for the lies they are, and that he will protect his most faithful and loyal soldiers. You continue to go about your daily routine, the prayers in the chapel, the administration of the estates, the training of the novices. But a dark shadow of foreboding now hangs over everything. The air is thick with a tension you cannot fight, a threat you cannot see. The dark whispers and rumors that have been drifting from Paris continue for months, an unsettling background noise to your quiet, ordered life in the preceptory. You and your brothers try to ignore them. You are soldiers of Christ, and your trust is in the Pope, your only true master. You believe that he will protect you from the political schemes of a desperate and indebted king. You continue your daily routine. The prayers, the administration of the farmlands, the training in the yard. You live by the rule and you trust in God. The morning of Friday, the 13th of October, in the year 1307, begins like any other day. You are awoken in the cold darkness by the bell for matins. You attend the pre-dawn service in the chapel, your prayers mixing with those of your brothers in a familiar, comforting drone. You eat a simple breakfast of bread and water in the silent refectory. The sun is rising. It is a crisp, clear autumn morning. The brothers are beginning to disperse to their daily tasks. Everything is normal. Then you hear the sound of a large number of horses arriving in the main courtyard. It is an unusual sound for so early in the morning, but not necessarily alarming. It could be a messenger from another preceptory or a local nobleman paying a visit. You walk out into the courtyard to see what the commotion is, and in that moment, your world ends. The courtyard is filled with armed men. They are not bandits or Saracens. They are the King of France's own soldiers, the royal bailiffs and seneschals, their faces grim and determined. They have moved with a shocking speed and silence. Before you even have time to process what is happening, you see that they have blocked every exit from the compound. They are in the stables, in the workshops, and their men now stand guard at the door of the chapel itself. You have been taken completely by surprise. You and your brothers are warriors, but you are not at war. You do not resist. To raise your sword against the soldiers of your own king is an unthinkable act. And then you see the figures who accompany them, and a cold dread, far worse than the fear of any battle, settles in your stomach. Walking with the soldiers are several men in the black and white robes of the Dominican order. They are inquisitors. This is the quirky and terrifying detail that reveals the true nature of this attack. This is not just a political or financial maneuver. The king has enlisted the authority of the Holy Inquisition to give his actions a veneer of sacred, legal legitimacy. You are not being arrested for debt. You are being arrested for heresy. This is the mainstream historical fact of your order's downfall, an operation of stunning and brutal efficiency. At this very same hour, on this same morning, every single Templar in the entire Kingdom of France is being arrested in a coordinated, surprise attack. The commander of your preceptory is read a royal decree listing the charges. Denying Christ, spitting on the cross, idolatry, blasphemy. You look around at the confused and terrified faces of your brothers as they are rounded up in the courtyard. You note the date, Friday, the 13th. The historical origins of the superstitions surrounding this day are debated, but for you, in this moment, you feel with a chilling certainty that this specific day, this date, will be remembered forever as a day of betrayal, of misfortune, of a dark and terrible doom. You are shoved into a line with the others, your hands bound. Your white mantle, the symbol of your purity and your honor, is torn as a soldier roughly ties your hands behind your back. The world you have lived in, a world of perfect order, of rigid discipline, of unwavering faith, has been turned completely upside down in the space of a few quiet morning hours. You, the holy warrior, are now a prisoner. You, the defender of the faith, are now a heretic. You are marched out of the gates of your own home, a prisoner of the very Christian kingdom you were sworn to serve. The silent, total, and perfect efficiency of the operation is the most terrifying part. You realize this was not a sudden decision. This was a conspiracy, a trap that has been planned in secret for many months. And you and your thousands of brothers, the most feared and respected fighting force in all of Christendom, have walked right into it, as gentle and as unsuspecting as lambs. You are marched from your home, your hands bound, a prisoner of a king you have never wronged. The world you knew, a world of honor, discipline, and sacred purpose, has been shattered in a single morning. You are taken to a royal castle and thrown into a cold, dark, and filthy dungeon. This will be your new home. The familiar, comforting rhythm of your life is gone. There is no bell for matins. There is no silent meal in the refectory. There is no training in the yard. There is only the damp chill of the stone, the drip of water in the darkness, and the gnawing fear of the unknown. Your white mantle, the symbol of your purity, has been taken from you, and you are left in simple, ragged clothes. You are no longer a Templar knight. You are just a man in a cage. Days and then weeks pass in this miserable darkness. Then one night, you are dragged from your cell and taken to an interrogation chamber. The room is lit by a single, harsh torch. You see the faces of the men who will be your judges, a panel of the king's lawyers, and a Dominican inquisitor, his face a mask of cold, pious certainty. And in the corner of the room, you see the tools of his trade, the rack, the branding irons, the thumb screws. They read the list of accusations to you. They ask you if you denied Christ at your initiation. You say no, it is a lie. They ask you if you worshipped an idol named Baphomet. You say you have never heard of such a thing. They ask you if you spat upon the cross. You deny it with all the strength in your soul. And then the torture begins. This is the mainstream historical fact of what happened next. The great trial of the Knights Templar was not a search for truth. It was a factory for producing confessions. And you are at the heart of the great, painful question that historians still debate. Can any of the confessions that were extracted from you and your brothers be considered historically valid? Under the agony of the rack, of fire and of water, a man will say anything. He will confess to anything to make the pain stop. You endure as long as you can, but in the end, broken by a pain you could never have imagined, you confess. You say the words they want you to say. You admit to the impossible, blasphemous acts. And then you are thrown back into your cell, your body broken, and your soul consumed by a shame that is 1,000 times worse than any physical pain. The great trial drags on for 7 long years. You are a forgotten man, rotting in a dungeon. News of the outside world comes in fragments, whispered by a sympathetic guard. You hear that the Pope, Clement V, a weak man completely under the thumb of the French king, has buckled under the pressure. In 1312, he officially dissolves your great and holy order. Your life's work, your identity, the very institution to which you sacrificed your youth and your will, has been erased from existence by the stroke of a pen on a papal bull. Then one day in the spring of 1314, you hear the final news. The Grand Master of your now-defunct order, Jacques de Molay, an old and venerable warrior, has been condemned to die. He is to be burned at the stake as a relapsed heretic on an island in the middle of the river Seine in Paris. You are not there, but you can see it in your mind's eye. You can imagine the old man being led to the pyre, his body frail after 7 years in prison. And the guards later whisper the story, the quirky and legendary last act of defiance. They say that as the flames were lit, the old Grand Master found a final, terrible strength. He recanted his forced confession, proclaiming his innocence and the purity of the order to the crowds. And then he raised his voice and he cursed the 2 men who had destroyed him. He summoned King Philip and Pope Clement to meet him before the judgment seat of God within a year. You lie on the cold stone floor of your cell. You are a man with no name, no order, and no future, a forgotten prisoner who will likely die of disease in this darkness. From a high, barred window, you can perhaps see a faint wisp of smoke rising from a distant part of the city, the smoke from some other, unknown fire. But for you, it is the funeral pyre of your entire world. You have learned the final, brutal lesson of your life. The greatest courage, the most profound piety, and a lifetime of selfless service are no defense at all against the cold, cynical, and ruthless machinations of worldly power. The great story of the poor fellow soldiers of Christ, a story that began in the blazing sun of the endless desert, is ending here. in the cold, damp darkness of a French prison, with the smell of smoke on the wind. Many years have passed. You are an old man now. The king who destroyed you, Philip IV, is dead. The pope who betrayed you, Clement V, is dead. Both, you note with a grim satisfaction, died within a year of your Grand Master's execution, just as his curse had foretold. You have been released from your dungeon, a forgotten, broken man in a world that has moved on. Your order is gone. Its great properties, its farms and preceptories have all been seized. This is the mainstream historical fact of the aftermath. The Pope had ordered that all Templar wealth be transferred to your great rivals, the Knights Hospitaller. But you know this was a fantasy. You know that the kings of Europe, Philip chief among them, simply absorbed the lion's share of the wealth for themselves. The Great Crusade against heresy was, in the end, the most successful and ruthless bank robbery in history. You live a quiet, anonymous life now, perhaps in a small village, your past a dangerous secret. And you begin to hear the new stories, the strange legends that are already starting to grow from the ashes of your order. And this is the final, quirky transformation you must witness. The world is beginning to forget the truth of who you were, and is replacing it with a much more exciting and mysterious myth. No one tells stories about your real life. They don't speak of the silent meals, the endless hours of prayer, the mind-numbing boredom of the desert patrol, or the filthy, terrifying reality of the battlefield. They have forgotten the pious bankers and the humble guardians of the road. Instead, they whisper new tales. They say the Templars were not just soldiers, they were the guardians of a great and ancient secret. The Holy Grail, perhaps, or the Ark of the Covenant, spirited away from Jerusalem. They whisper that the immense treasure of the Templars was never found, that it was smuggled out of Paris on a fleet of ships the night before the arrests, and is still hidden somewhere, waiting to be discovered. You who know the truth, that the Order's treasure was not a chest of gold, but a vast network of land, property, and letters of credit, listen to these stories with a sad, weary sense of irony. And you are a silent witness to a question that historians and popular authors will debate for the next 700 years. Was there a real, physical, hidden Templar treasure? Or is this story simply a romantic myth, a legend born from the world's inability to believe that something so powerful and wealthy could be destroyed so completely and so quickly? Your order has been destroyed, but its ghost has become more powerful than the living body ever was. You have been transformed from a historical reality into a legend of secret knowledge, lost treasure, and shadowy conspiracies. You live out your final years in your quiet corner of the world. You are a ghost, a living relic of a world that is gone forever. You are one of the last men on earth who remembers the truth. You remember the rough, itchy feel of the white woolen mantle in the desert heat. You remember the simple taste of the bread and water in the refectory. You remember the true, human fear in the eyes of a young recruit before his first charge. These are the boring, human truths that are being erased by the exciting, superhuman legend. The sun sets on your long and weary life, the great story of the poor fellow soldiers of Christ, which for you was a story of discipline, prayer, and the harsh realities of the desert, is now over. It has been replaced by a new story, a ghost story that will haunt the imagination of the world for centuries to come. You, the man who lived the truth, are now just a silent witness to the birth of your own myth. And now the long and sorrowful watch of the warrior monk is over. The story that began in the green fields of France, with a young man full of a restless and uncertain hope, has come to its final, quiet end. The journey across the great sea, the first sight of the endless desert, the discipline of the silent rule, the terror of the battlefield, and the cold darkness of the dungeon, all of it, now fades into the deep and silent past. The great cloak has been laid down, the cross has been buried in ashes. The desert wind is the only thing that remains, Let the memory of the chance, the clash of swords, and the final, smoky silence all dissolve. The battle is over. The order is at peace, and now you can be too.